Welcome to Annexed Dinner Table Reviews. I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Devin.
And today we're going to be looking at Pandemic. Pandemic is a cooperative game where you go around the globe treating diseases while also looking for a cure. You're doing that by collecting cards that you're going to be able to help cure it, make you move quicker to various places in order to stop the spread of these pandemics. This is a great game. I would say that if you think that you might be into co-op games, or if you know you're into co-op games, this is definitely one that you should check out. It's a classic nowadays.
Yeah, this is one of our favorites, and I think this is actually one of the games that got us really into tabletop gaming.
Yeah, I would say this was like our second or third tabletop game, and this is one of the ones that we came back to over and over again when we were first starting.
Yeah, we really like the cooperative nature of it also because I don't know if y'all know this, but we have a competition problem, and so cooperative games are always a plus because it means we're not at each other's throats. So this is a really good one for that because it's all about, team strategy and, working together.
Yeah, and it is cooperative 2 to 4. I would say I really prefer to play it at that 2-player than at that 4-player because it one of the lose conditions is getting to the end of the player cards, and you go through them a lot quicker when you're playing 4 players. So you're just not getting as many turns, and that really affects some of the strategy. You're thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead, but you're having to waste a lot of turns to get that.
Yeah, and you're even trying to think 6 moves ahead, but by the time you move 2 turns, everything else beyond that point has been erased because the conditions have changed and there's been an outbreak and you have to do something else. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the base game has, I think it's 7, 8 roll cards, which adds quite a bit of variance in choosing which ones you want to play with and finding your favorites and matches. Because, I really enjoy playing the quarantine specialist. I think that's a really powerful role. But sometimes they work better, like a researcher works really well with a scientist kind of thing. So finding good pairings and just adding a little bit of a twist that's not too complicated or too much. It's not changing the gameplay all that much with those different roles.
Yeah, but it does definitely affects your strategy and how you're going to approach the game. But after you play for a while, you can definitely look at the roll cards and determine how well you're going to do in the game. Like the medic and the quarantine specialist are very powerful cards, and sometimes when you don't get them, it makes the game a little bit more challenging. But in the replayability realm, if you're looking for more challenging games, picking less powerful roll cards can help you give that variant.
Yeah, and it's 100% strong replayability in this because of the rolls, but also just you're flipping cards for all of them, so how they're coming up is going to be different every single time, both in the infection deck and in that player deck. And then those epidemic cards, in the standard game, you start with 4, and then you can scale up to 6, which is another difficulty level, just adding to that replayability of it. For the time, this was so unique. Even now, it's still fairly unique. I think a lot of games have taken from this with the map and moving around the map in a cooperative adventure. But, this game's 10 years, 11 years old now. I would say I think it's the first one that did it. I really enjoy this one and think that for a lot of people that this is a staple in their collection. It's definitely a staple in our collection. We've got all the expansions and love adding them in, inviting new people over to play this to get them into that. And it's really easy to teach because it's so cooperative, because if they're not understanding things, you can easily just be like, oh, that's not right. What if we did these things? And kind of help leading them, instead of in a competitive game, there's so many questions, and sometimes you're like, oh, you didn't understand that, and I'm gonna tell you this now, but I don't really want to because it's gonna put you ahead, or it's gonna
affect the gameplay, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that does open you up to a wider age range too, right? Because it is so cooperative. There's a lot of, if you do this, I can do this, and or if I do this, then in 2 turns you can do this, type of gameplay.
Yeah, and especially I would say like age range. I do think that this could be very young. 8 could play this, just because even if they're just moving the pieces and just getting the strategy, you can kind of lead them by the hand and be like, you should do these things. My nephew really just likes moving the pieces. He's, 5. But even then, he's still involved in it. And you're like, okay, I'm this pink one. Move me to, Miami. And he's like, oh, I'm so excited. Or, he loves doing those little things where you're able to incorporate everyone who wants to be incorporated.
For sure. The other thing that's great about this game is it's so big that the franchise, we talked about expansion packs a little bit, but there's also so many spin-offs and so many different variations on this game that, if you really like this gameplay, you can really go down the rabbit hole and find a lot of content in this world. Yeah,
because there's the expansions and the extra base games like you were talking about, but it also has a whole legacy series. I think they just released season 0, so that's 1, 2, and then 0. You go backwards in time if you want more of that legacy feeling instead. So yeah, it is. It's super difficult to win, as all co-op games are, but I enjoy that feeling of really kind of winning against all odds almost.
Yeah, and within the base game there is some variation. Like, we have a house rule that we built on this that allows you to, if you are playing with the player deck, we play that you have to eradicate, and if you, in that variation, you add another epidemic card into the player deck, and then can restart the deck. That's not a lose condition anymore. You just make the game more difficult every time you flip the deck. So it makes the games a little bit longer, but gives you that more advanced variant, and you have to eradicate all of the diseases.
Yeah. So that's what we thought about Pandemic. If you like this video, hit that button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notifications of our newest videos.